Okay, this is actually a fantastic time to do this because I cannot see the screen very well, and maybe if I can just get into a habit of vlogging and not looking at us. But then that's going to be really weird for talking to you because I always look at you when I'm talking to you, and like I can so barely see you in the screen right now.
Mate, I can't see me at all in the screen right now. You can. Maybe. Maybe. You use the mirror.
We could, but I like to. It's gonna sound so nerdy. I like to be able to analyze our body language and facial expressions when I'm watching this back to learn more about us and what's happening. And like if I'm looking off to the side all the time, that's gonna kind of get in the way of that.
Yeah.
I can, for the record though, I can totally and completely see you even when I'm the one that's got us dressed. I can't when it's me if you've got us dressed though, to be fair, so like that's valid. I do get that.
So much rather just deal with it. One more thing that can't fucking touch me, the more I do it. But yeah, if I can see your face moving when I talk, I get depersonalized as hell.
I can't even front some of the time if I can't like recognize myself in the way the body looks, so that's very fair. Alright, so are you okay if I just
Yeah.
So we're outside and me and Vince started talking about how we experience our sense and self and senses of self, and how mine's gotten less like confined. Really, just over the last maybe over this last month, but it's been so slow and so gradual. I've only really noticed it over the last like 3 or 4 days, or I've only noticed like the positive effects of it and settled into myself as this shape with this many parts of me being present, kind of feeling pretty unanimously, rather than like there's still a little bit of a gear shift I can feel, but feel more expanded as a person. There's a new sort of vastness to the way I experience myself and the things and the qualities and the ways of feeling and experiencing that I define as me has increased in the very different ways that that can be while still feeling like I feel like me, which is quite a difficult experience to express. But we were discussing it and like discussing kind of how it's different for me than it used to be, and how it's different for me now. I think if I'm not putting words in your mouth, I assume it's quite different for me than it is for you.
Yeah, no, very. I still have the whole corridor thing going on.
I just want to glance through this page to see if I can hold it up. He asked me how I'd achieved that and like what I'd done to make it feel more expansive and less confined. And we had a conversation about it that seemed really interesting, and it made me think about it. I journaled a bit about it, and now I think it's worth vlogging about because it's really fucking interesting. I really need to be able to show you this while I'm looking at it, which is not going to be possible, but let's see. So it feels like before this, oh my god, which way is left or right? This way, this is how I would perceive myself. Like with this being, say, the person fronting, and this being like the outside that we're looking out of, the eyes, the front, the whatever, and going back in, going deeper inside. And then these would all be parts of me. But I would be separated by these lines which I represented like amnesic walls with. And it would feel very much like I would have to, like, you know how you can grab a video in YouTube playlists and move it up and down? It felt like I had to kind of do that. Like, this is what I mean by a clunky gear shift feeling. And it felt like I was being, how did I write this? I wrote it quite well. It felt like there were corridor-like parameters funneling, dividing and compressing and isolating me into which part could be present at once. And I didn't realise that there were like corridor-like parameters doing this because I didn't have any comparison. It's only now that that's not the case that I can see that was the case. But it felt like only, like there was only room for one part of me in this narrow kind of corridor hallway experience of being myself, and like depending on the situation it would just switch which part was present. Whereas now it feels more like the corridors have, like, the corridor lines have dissolved and there's now space that's more expansive. This is what I mean. There's also like less, I don't know if I'd say none, maybe I'd say none though, you know, of these walls separating parts of me and stopping them from mixing like amorphous paint. It's much more like mixed amorphous paint. So like maybe there's still, you know, more of one colour in one spot mixing into the colour on the side of it, but there's no actual walls and parameters feeling like they are stopping that from happening in me, in all of the parts currently fused and integrating. It's hard to do sweeping statements, but here we go, this is close enough. So it feels like these walls just broke away, these walls just slowly over time have disintegrated, and these hallway-like parameters keeping me filed into a specific shape and divided so there's not enough room for more than one shape of part of me at once, feel like they just widened and kind of went. And now it feels like all these parts of me that were like having to choose to be there one at a time or deeper inside could all blob out sideways. So now it's like this is the front and this would be deeper inside, and like all of me can just kind of be there more at once, and what it means to be the shape of me has just widened and become more vast and more like, yeah, expansive. Like my entire viewpoint and the feeling of both being me and of my ability to perceive things in the world and the ways in which I can perceive them, far less blinkered and far less black and white and far more multifaceted all at once, which makes things way more confusing, yes, but it's also better. It's a lot better. It's like, I can't even explain how much better. And there's less of this like trapped, closed in, compressed feeling of isolation and like parts of me are distant behind me over my shoulder. It's much more whole. And so I've been thinking about it, and there's a lot of things that I don't have at all clear yet, but that I'm just thinking about and theorising about and thinking, that's kind of fucking wild. Like, as an experience, this is kind of fucking wild. But also, realising that was my experience is really fucking wild. And then I thought about all of the, like, okay, so I used to describe this tunnel vision experience that I'd have. Not limited to, but especially in parts of me that identify as a persecutor. it would really feel like I wasn't close to the room. Like, you know, if you look through a toilet tube, it felt like I was doing that all the time. Like, I couldn't fucking take it off. It was actually really claustrophobic, and I'd feel very trapped if I thought about it too hard because I just could not come closer to the room and to my surroundings and to the people around me and to the body than I was. And it would be like better or worse depending on the day. Whereas now I don't feel like it's a giant corridor between me and like the front of my eyes, the room around me. I feel like sometimes maybe I'm like a little bit back, or everything's really there and really in my face. And I can really feel the textures, and I'm like really here, or so a little bit removed, like a little bit. But it used to be like this whole corridor, this whole like I don't know how to describe it other than tunnel vision. Like I would look at the desk right in front of me and touch it and still feel like I'm down this corridor looking at my hand that kind of feels like I'm remote controlling it like you would holding a controller and looking at your character on a screen. It's like it was very fucking far removed from me. And I'm looking at how I chose to draw this, and it's like it's kind of like a corridor. And then what I'm thinking about is sometimes I talk to us. Often, actually, we talk either into the phone camera or into the mirror. So I've seen our eyes and I've watched our eyes while we're talking, and there are definitely times where I see parts of us join the conversation. Like, I see a different. I don't know what. I see a different layer, colour, light, movement, glint. A different something in our eyes come further towards the front from the back, and our eyes get clearer in a very tiny way that is very hard to articulate, or a very like subtle way maybe. But I've seen this happen with both of us, with parts of us. I see it happen when he's further back, and then I my brain gets fucking blown because I see him. I feel him coming closer to the front, and it's reflected in what I see in my eyes, and then I can see him looking out of them as opposed to me looking out of them, and that looks very different. And I know when I'm looking at his eyes versus mine. So, like, what the fuck is this corridor thing? What other people describe tunnel vision. Is it just an expression and I'm pattern registering and going, yes, that must be the same? Or are we having very similar experiences when we describe tunnel vision? Like, you know, what is this? What's going on? I'm very interested, and I have no idea. It's bizarre, but it's really fascinating to me. And then so this is really cool, and I'm gonna stop this here because this is kind of like the explanation of what I mean, what I'm talking about, what it was like before, what it is now. And then the next thing that I wrote down was kind of like, what things am I doing to change how this works, to get to this more expansive experience of having more parts of me able to be there mixed and all at once instead of this tight parameter funneled singular isolated version of me that has to switch back and forth like slides. Like I was thinking of Dexter's slides, for the record. Like, all trauma aside, that was what came to mind first. But you know, this is kind of like, yeah, I think this is like experientially what I mean. We've got to, we've come from, the effect, and then the journey, the tactics, this is hard to articulate because this is like experience. But the next bit, I got some of it into semi-clear steps, so I'm gonna make that a part 2 of this, so that I've got like what helped all quite easy to access, because I know how fucking hard it is to access information when you need it and you're just treading water to survive. And the more streamlined and easy to access and understand I can make it, the more likelihood that somebody that needs it might be able to come across it and absorb it. So